Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Tommy, good morning. Thank you so much for being on Coaching Call with me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Actually, in the evening for me because I'm in the Philippines, so I'm 12 hours ahead of you.
Yeah. So if you're ahead of me, what's my lotto numbers? I'm just kidding. So there seems to be a little delay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak. When you speak, I'll give it a second or two. Okay. So let's have some fun.
Okay. Yes.
Where were you born? And two questions. Where were you born? And then also, who would you say influenced you before you became a teenager?
Okay. Well, I was born in Long Beach, California, and in the 50s. And most influential person, I'd say my dad. He was a certified public accountant. And I was number 3. I was the oops. My brothers were 7 and 9 years older than me. So when I was about 7, coming the age of reason, they were already like 16 and 14. So they didn't really have much to do with me because, I'm the little kid. Right. But yeah, so as I'd say, my dad, it's a good influence. So I had a wonderful life.
Gotcha. We want to get into everything that you're doing currently. I mean, in your bio, you talk about abnormal psychology and accounting. I as we go along, I want to get into this abnormal psychology. Isn't all psychology a little bit abnormal? But let's get into that. So you would say your dad is one of the ones that had a big influence on you. In what way? I believe that I lost you for a second there, Tommy. So
yes, all of a sudden you were not there.
Yeah, so maybe what we could do is really quick go out of this out of the program and come back in. So go out and come back, and that may fix it. Okay.
I will do that.
So meanwhile, we will have some time just with me. So yes, he was born in raised in California. And like I was saying before, he does hold a double major in abnormal psychology and accounting. And his life is it's definitely not ordinary. Um, so we have him, he's coming back in. So let's go ahead and bring him back on the stage. There you are, my friend.
Here I am.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you got the question that I gave you before.
No, I'm still seeing a little bit of delay. So
Okay. So how you talked about your dad being an influence on you. How would you say he influenced you?
Oh, well, kind of like letting me grow up instead of what he had to do with my older brothers. He was totally involved in trying to discipline, and he was out of the Navy, so a lot of things were done by the book. So, another, let's see, 9, 10 years later, you have another child. You kind of much more relaxed, so you don't have to have the pressure, and you've already done it. So there's that actual help there too. So it was a great way of just growing up without a lot of constrictions and stuff is what I could say. A lot more freedom.
Yeah. I think that happens for most kids who the first one is the one that the parents are more helicopter parents. They're watching every little thing. And then as more kids come along, they're like, yeah, whatever. Go play in dirt.
Much more relaxed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They broke the model and stuff, so I didn't have to follow anything. And also there was what was it? Dr. Spock was quite popular then, and so it's all done by regulations. Feed the kid a certain time, and it's basically back to a factory kind of thinking that permeated the culture back then. So.
You just said something that most millennials and most people nowadays have never heard. Dr. Spock, and we both know what that means. That is a book, and it was a thick book that was like how to parent, how to be a good parent, and
Mhm.
the guides of being a good parent. And a lot of, like you was mentioning, a lot of people were reading that book and they were following its guide. But somehow along the way, that book kind of got tossed out, didn't it?
Well, it didn't really apply because, again, you're trying to treat the people as a factory, and that's that whole mentality of that I say is in the Industrial Revolution kind of mentality of get a job, go to school, get good grades, and life will be good for you. And then if you don't want to be a worker, then go to college and be a manager. Now you don't have to
Mhm.
work so hard. Now you tell other people to work hard. And so that is now, I think, finally coming to an end because in America, I just don't see like an automobile company going to hire 1 million Americans and pay them $50 an hour, and tire companies and steel companies and glass companies. It's just not happening. So people have got to realize now that this whole idea of getting a job is not there. It's 1750 thinking. It's industrial revolution. We've grown a lot more in a lot of different ways. So we don't have to get a job to survive, but how else are you going to get money?
Yeah, a lot of people are also advocating the no college. Don't go to college. Learn AI, and you will be ahead of the game. You'll become a millionaire, billionaire. All you have to do is learn AI and use AI to, I guess, educate yourself even.
Well, if you look at the different revolutions, if you just think back the agricultural revolution, if you happened to own land, you were wealthy and everybody else was poor. Then in 1750, you had the industrial revolution. So if you had an industry making products, you were much wealthier faster than if you were in the agricultural. Then in the 50s, you had the distribution problem. How do you distribute all these products? And so they figured out that. Then the computer came along in the 70s, and then the information revolution in 2000 with Google and things. And then we have kind of the infotainment and also the kind of like partnering it. So I wrote a book, and Amazon sells it for me. I don't have to do any marketing. I get the money. So it's you think about a kid today who had a good phone and maybe had some rich parents. He was got a flight to, let's say, Israel. It doesn't matter, pick country, and he interviewed people. He wasn't even graduate high school, and yet
Mm,
he's there in Israel inter- interviewing people, putting it on his YouTube channel, and he's making $1 million a month.
mm,
He's not a journalist. He didn't go to school, didn't go to college, but that's the whole revolution coming. And I've come up with a new one: is the free revolution. And with the free revolution, I just see everybody wants everything for free: free Wi-Fi, free shipping,
mm,
sugar free. Everything is free, free, free. And so I figured out a way that we could cool the free food and distribute it freely and still make. I figured in one calculation about 5,000 a day, serving 400 meals to people. So
mm.
there's ways of making money also in real estate too, of having free housing and having a quite $1 million portfolio is very simple. So I've been thinking about this. So that's what I'm doing here in the Philippines, is trying to promote that and practice it and develop it and make sure it works and get the video and put it up on YouTube and show people how it's floundering and falling apart and making all kinds of mistakes. But then it finally works and gels together. So then I'll bring that back to America once I have it all figured out.
I love it. So, and you are in the Philippines, and that's maybe why we had a little bit of delay. But it sounds like we're good now. When we think about all your thinking, everything, it all stemmed from something early on in your life, right? And you talked about free, and I'm hearing echo again. I don't know if there's something playing. What happened is e- everybody does want something for free, but they want to do nothing for it. And I believe that in order to get something for free, you still have to do some work in the background, right? So let's talk about your childhood, right? Let's talk
No.
about schooling for you. What was school like? Elementary school, middle school, high school? What was that all like for you?
Oh, yeah, I remember some of my earliest memories is riding my tricycle, and I wasn't even in school yet. It must have been like 4 or something like that. And riding out in the area of this area that kind of like the suburbs. And so there was a high school on the other side of the street, in a sense, and I could hear the band playing. So I always remember those memories of that, the sounds. And then my elementary school was just like down the street and over across another street, and I was there. So I was walked to school by my older brother. And so he would pick me up from coming back. And then one time he didn't show up. So I'm crying and going, my brother's not here. And some two girls, probably what, fourth or fifth grade, said, "Do you know where you live?" "Yeah, it's down here. Why don't you walk home?" Well, what an idea. So I walk home and mom goes, "Where's your brother?" "You walked all the way home?" "Yeah." Okay, so from then on, I walked to school and I walked back from school. So it's not a really big deal. So, and I was there for, I think, kindergarten, I think, if I remember right. Then we moved near the airport of Long Beach, and it was in a sort of new housing track. And that was first grade to fourth grade. And that
Mm.
was George Washington Carver. So it was interesting to go to a school that honored a black man. And so learning about was important to learn about your school and who this guy was. So we had a good education about that. And then from there, we moved to the freeway. There was a brand new house that we bought and had a pool in the backyard. And so that was from like fourth grade until college, fourth grade until high school. And then I moved out when I was 17 to have my own apartment. So
Wow,
yeah,
look at
life was good.
that.
Middle
Yeah.
class, upper middle class.
When you talked about a tricycle, I remember having a big wheel. I don't know if you remember those. Um, and the wheels were plastic, and you would just, they were amazing. So it was probably the most fun I ever had, on something like that. It seems like you may be frozen again. So for anybody listening, I appreciate you being here with us, and there must be some connection issues going on in the Philippines. And with, anytime we're talking to anyone around the world, this may happen. So
No
thank you
internet.
for that. Oh,
Ah,
now you have internet again. You're back.
yeah. I
You're
guess
back.
we
You
had,
hear me?
yeah, we had an internet. I could just see like just one over an internet interruption. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen more than once. But we're still connected, right? You and I. So in high school,
Oh
you
yeah,
you
we are.
moved out when you were 17. Why did you move out? A lot of kids I know will go to college and then back home, college back home. They'll even go to a college near home. Why did you move out?
The freedom. Yeah. I remember my mom saying, "I want you to be confirmed in the Episcopal Church." And I said, "Okay, if I do that, then I don't want to be told what to do." And she went, "Okay." So it was that independence. So I had been quite an entrepreneur when I was quite young and saved up my money. So when I was turned 15, I bought my own motorcycle, and I had a motorcycle license, even though
Oh man, it's just when the story's getting
so
good. Go ahead. I heard you had a
yeah.
motorcycle license. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a motorcycle license, but I had to drive my motorcycle to high school to learn how to drive a car. So it was a weird little quirky thing about the law at the time. So, and then at 15 in a summer, I had a job as a diver. I was actually a scuba diver. I learned at 13, and then at 15, I applied for a job to be a diver in a uh, try to a port or a harbor. And so it's called ship shape divers. And I was
Mm,
being paid $165 a week back then
mm,
in the
wow,
70s, early 70s. And my friends were making about $40 or $30 at McDonald's. So
right.
it was a whole different thing. So that was able to accumulate a lot of money in a short amount of time, and I saved that up. And I bought a car, so I bought a Mazda RX-3, and I
Okay.
was 17. I signed a contract, so I was legally not allowed to do that. But I came into the dealership with $1,000 cash, and I said, "I'm looking to buy a car." And I pull my pen in my pocket and pulled out $1,000, and it just spilled all over the table. And so their eyes bugged out. They said, "Okay, we'll sell you a car." So I signed a contract, and so I had a automobile loan when I was 17.
Wow, that's incredible. Um, and so obviously they broke the law because they shouldn't have given you a contract, right? Um, but
Yeah, it's
but
like,
money
what do we
speaks,
care?
right? Money speaks sometimes.
That's true. That's very true. So then I went to work as an insurance investigator. I lied. I told them I was 19. They had my driver's license. They looked. They saw that I was 17. So they hired me anyway. So in a very short amount of time, I became one of their second highest producers because I just did the work. They said, "Do this," and I did it. So I was basically the eyes of the insurance company. I would go out and look at the car or look at the house or look at the business, take a picture, and jot some things out just so it jived with what they're saying. So I was kind of like the
Hmm.
independent eyes of the insurance company. So after about a year of that, I saw that was what am I going to be 40, 50 years old? I'm still doing this. So I thought, oh, my dad's a CPA. I'll go to school. I'll go to college and be an accountant, and I'll take over my dad's practice. And I'll be, upper middle class and good life. That's what the idea was.
So you did go to accounting, right? How long did you do it? Did you actually go back and work with your dad, or did you work for another firm?
Ah, yes. So off to college, and I looked around for a college that would be far away. It was nice to be away from everybody, and it was a small town, so I thought I could focus on my studies. So it was called Chico State University. So it's up in Northern California. So I took a trip up there and I loved it and was doing accounting and abnormal psychology. So my high school counselor, he was a teacher at the junior college, and I took a class from him on psychology, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was great. This is fantastic. So I really want to work with crazy people. So that's why I picked the abnormal. I wanted to really crazy. So I did interns at Napa State Mental Hospital. And they got all the interns together and they were going over the different wards, describing what the different wards were. And they said, number 7, okay, number 8. And then they would say, which one did you want? I said, what's 7? Oh, that's the autistic. That these kids are psychotic. They don't even react to you. So nobody ever does it. I said, I'll take that one. They gave me the key and I
Wow,
walked in and oh my God, it was bedlam. It was crazy. The noise.
very interesting. Hopefully, you can tell he cut out again. I'm loving this conversation because I want to get into the abnormal psychology. And earlier I said when you were offline, I said, I want to know what abnormal psychology is because I believe all psychology is abnormal, but this is the first time I'm seeing both of those words put together. So please expand.
Oh yeah. The craziest people you ever meet are in psychology classes. They are in school to work with their mental problems. So
Mm,
just the nuttiest people. So when I was at Napa State Mental Hospital, I would say I was also around other kids that were not psychotic and stuff. And
mm,
they were I was explaining to them, I'm just as crazy as you are. My craziness is just socially acceptable. So
mm,
if you just do socially acceptable crazy things, you'll be fine. You'll get out of here. But yeah, so that's what it was. But there was only 5 autistic children. And it's really interesting. This one kid, he would go through a cycle, kind of like a lunar cycle, although we never figured it out in that sense. But about 2 weeks, he would
mm.
shift into being really crazy. And he would ask to be tied down tighter. So we would tie him to his bed. And he would have to wear a hockey helmet back then because if he ever got loose, he would bang his head into the wall. They're all brick walls, and he would, that we couldn't have that happen. And then about 2 weeks of thrashing around and being really wild and crazy, then it would calm down, and then we could release him. And he was a normal
Mm.
8 or 10 year old, a normal 10-year-old. You can talk to him. He was understanding everything, and then you can start seeing it coming. So he had a really cycle and stuff. So that was something to bewildered, about the human mind of what it can do.
Yeah, that's incredible. So lunar psychosis, I guess, if you go into it, right? Um, that's a very interesting.
Lunacy, we get that word.
Yeah, yeah. When we think about your choice, number seven. Seven is a magical number, isn't it?
Well, that's where the Catholic Church considers it an age of reason. And
Mm,
that's where you're really not expected to know right and wrong up until about that age 7. And all of a sudden, you're supposed to be able to have a consciousness, being
mhm,
aware of yourself, being aware of the world you're in. So that's
right.
usually a good indicator of where things shift. So yeah, the things you're doing up before that is just fun. I think of, you go to first day of school and you come back and you say, "Look, mommy, I got an F. I did really well. A, B, C, D, F, F. I did great." She goes, "Oh, no, honey, you didn't draw within the lines." I said, "Well, yesterday before I went to school, you said I was great. It's on the refrigerator, and I'm not inside the lines." So there's the schooling. There's the whole purpose of what I'm trying to think of Edison or Ford. Yeah, Henry Ford said the purpose of school is to make complacent workers. So
Mm.
basically, ring the bell, make you salivate, go eat. Ring the bell, go pee. Ring the bell, go leave. Ring the bell, come back to work. So they were training us to be little factory workers. And so I think of modern times with Charlie Chaplin in it. And that's all we are. It's just we're a cog in a wheel in the whole factory sense.
Wow, that's very interesting. You made me think. So, if I take a test, I want to get a Z then, right? Not an A.
There you go. Yeah, 26. You're a Z.
Woo! I got a Z. So when we think, and that actually may be a good grade because everybody fits in somewhere, right? Where are you currently? Where do you fit? And so you went to college to get away, and one of your programs was psychology. How do you turn psychology and then get into accounting? Because one is numbers that make sense, and the other one's things that don't make sense, right?
Yeah. And again, some of the it was the attitude, it was the mentality of my fellow accounting people. They were just so narrow-minded. They were just so into, and that's the thing too. Being an accountant, being a CPA is very highly morals and stuff like that. So not that I want to be immoral, but it was just they were into one thinking, and I like
Mm,
the abnormal because you could be crazy and still be acceptable and stuff. And so I could see the contradictions of that. So it was a really good combination. And then what happened is I was in the tutoring. Well, because of my dad and my experience of accounting, I blew through the class. There was
mm,
a kind of a class where we had eight. It was each week they would have a chapter. So if you passed the chapter, then you'd move on. And if you went ahead of that, well, there's no class for you to attend. So I just kept going. And in about 6 weeks, I passed a 15-week class. And then they had me write the test. So I was writing the test for the other students that were following me. And then I was in a tutoring room, and then a guy came in who was a deaf. And so he lost his hearing when he was 4 years old. And
wow.
then what I did is there was an interpreter. So I would speak to the interpreter, and then she would sign to him, but then he would talk to me. So I thought, well, wait a second. If I learned sign language, then I could bypass the interpreter. And that's what I did. So at the community college, I took sign language classes. And then he was a neighbor. And so he and I became friends. And so I really got into the deaf community.
Wow, that's so interesting. Obviously, Tommy logged off again. Hopefully, he'll be back. Think about what it takes for someone to want to learn not only a new language, but a new nonverbal language, if you will, like signing. Um, Signing has always been so fascinating to me, and I hope that Tommy can also come back in and talk to us about what inspired him, besides just wanting to connect with this guy, to take the time to learn to sign, because it is fascinating when you look at an interpreter who can speak and yet has to interpret, right? Maybe it's a different language. My sister, God bless her, She used to work at the UN and she was an interpreter and she used to interpret 8 different languages. And we totally lost Tommy. I'm hoping he can come back. Otherwise, we might have to do another show at another time. But think about what winds up happening um, when you have to translate in your mind for someone else. So it looks like Tommy's back. Tommy, I was just talking about how incredible it was for you to decide to bypass the interpreter and make the effort to learn sign language. And then not only that, but to become friends with somebody. How long did it take you to understand signing and just the thought of like, I'm going to learn a new language, if you will, right? Because signing is a whole new language because it's no longer verbal, it's all hands, even
Mhm.
facial gestures, right? So,
That's important, the facial expressions.
correct, correct.
So yes,
So, good
it's
morning, Gabby. Thank you for joining us. And yes, great topic of conversation. I tell you, every time you and I talk, it's always a great conversation, Tommy. So, um, because I love communication so much, and we talk about body gestures, body mechanics, also facial gestures, the way we move our hands. And a lot of people say to me, "You're not even Italian. You talk like an Italian." So, how important
yeah.
is all of this when it comes to communication?
Oh, yes. And they say that body language is more in the percentage than actually what we speak. And so this was very helpful for me to learn that sign language. And then I moved from Chico, I moved to San Francisco to pursue the social work. And I worked at a internship at the Hearing Society for the Bay Area, which was for deaf people. So I was actually teaching a sign language class to people who were going deaf. And
Oh
then
my
through my
goodness.
internship there, I had a couple of kids I was placed because I was supposed to learn about how to be a social worker, which I ended up not really being very good at social work. It just didn't work for me. But then I needed to learn a language. So I had planned to go to Spain. So I picked up Spanish class. So I took one class, one semester of accounting, one class of Spanish. And then that summer I was in Spain. I was in Spain
Mm.
for a month. And that's where I could live with the people. I wasn't a tourist where I was in that way. So I learned Spanish very quickly. And then it was funny. I was there for about a month, and then very quickly I went from Madrid to London. And I'm in the bus in London. I'm saying to the conductor, "How much does it cost to get from here to there?" And he looked at me like I was crazy. My girlfriend said, "You're speaking Spanish." I went, "Oh." So I was so used to speaking Spanish that it came out that way. So
Mm.
then I hear in the Philippines, people ask me, "Why'd you come here?" And I say, "Nagapangita sang asawa." I came here looking for a wife. And so I've written a book. It's called How to Speak, Read, and Write a New Language in 30 Days. And this
Oh
one's
my goodness.
Hiligaynon. So it's a really, I thought, why is it so difficult to learn a language? And people don't want to do it. They don't want to go to school. And you're always taught by somebody else who wants you to learn the
Yeah.
way they want you to learn. I go, wait a second. If you're a teacher, either you can teach the way you want to, or you could teach it the way they want you. So I thought, okay, how do I want to learn it? So I will learn two most important words, which would be God and love. So I learned those words and a little phrase with it too. And then what's next is how are you? Good morning, good
Mhm.
afternoon. So these are things I've studied. And so I put together a book. And so I'm encouraging all the foreigners here to speak the language because they can pick it up in 30 days. They're not going to have a conversation like you and me are having, but at least they can go to the store. They can buy vegetables, fruit, meat, fish. They can have a conversation, short little bits, because that's all you want to do is show that you actually put an effort out speaking their language. You get on a bus and you say how much does it cost, or here, pass the money. So it's lehog, so lehog ho bayad. So it's pass the money. It's very funny how we do it here. And then I would also say cigar, the cigar long. That means get me off, let me off. And I said it so loud that everybody turned to look at me. Even a taxi, even the driver, the jitney turned around to look at me because I said it too loud.
Ah,
Here, the language is a loving language. So it's, it'd be cigar long. That's how you would
right.
say it. So,
Uh-uh.
and so it's lots of fun to learn languages. I haven't really found it to be easy to learn a language. It's been now that's what I want to learn. it's very simple.
Mm. It almost sounded like you said cigar lounge. It's cigar lung, right?
Sugar long, su lugar long. So it's
Cigar lung.
phonetical. So it's I'm learning now the cadence. So it's a
Mm.
certain way of saying it. So I'll say eat log, which means eggs. And they'll look at me going, what are you talking about? Eggs? Oh yeah, eat log. Am I saying eat log? No, you're not saying eat log. You're saying eat log. Well, I just
The phonetics,
if
yeah, yeah.
don't get it exactly right, they have no clue of what I'm saying. So the Filipino people are wonderful people, but they do not have any anticipation. They don't, and are not anticipatory. They don't say, they don't ever put themselves in your shoes.
Mm.
Oh, what you mean is it? No, they never do that. They're just, what is it? You know, it's like a foreign language, what you're saying, even if it's their language. But today I was at the mall and I went to get my girlfriend some French fries. She wanted some French fries for lunch. So I saw a white guy. So I walked over and said, hey, a white guy. He probably speaks English. And he does. He was from England. So we had a little chat and stuff. So I said, when his Filipino companion sat down, I said, my own hapon, which means good afternoon. And she went, you speak Iligano? And so I said some more things. And so she's translating what I'm saying to him. So they said, how many years have you been here? I've only been here, 5 months studying the language. I've been in the Philippines by 11 months. So yeah. So it's not difficult if you put your mind to it and have the love
That's
of
it.
it, and it's a lot of fun.
That's exactly I think that's the catalyst for anything, right? You have to want it. Your intention has to be pure. And when you go for something, just like, listen, you decided you weren't forced to learn sign language because the interpreter was doing a good job. You were not
Mhm.
forced to learn Spanish
Uh,
because you get a lot of people who go to a different country and they don't bother to learn the language, they don't bother to learn the customs, they don't bother to learn the way that people speak. And so what winds up happening is they're a little bit lost, but they're like, "Ah, I'm just here as a visitor. I'm just here for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. It doesn't matter." But it does make a difference, doesn't it?
the Filipino people really appreciate me putting my effort out. And then I'll start with the numbers like Isa duha. See, I still, and then I got to stop and think what's the I'm going, Tatlo. See, I still don't
Mm,
remember it all, but that's okay. They just smile. They'll even say the words before me. I'm
mm.
trying to learn. Don't say it. Let me do it. But they're very helpful. So then
That's
they
awesome.
always, now they're saying, how many years have you been here? Which before is how long have you been here? They knew I was as a tourist, something like that. But now what I want is I want them to say, were you born here? I
Mm,
want my language so much like it's a native, like it's someone local. So
right.
we have words that are more in the city versus the ones in the countryside. So I'm learning both words. So if I'm in the city, I'll say manka, but then in the countryside, I'll say lanka, which is jackfruit. So so I want some jackfruit. I have to say manka or lanka. So
Interesting, interesting. It's also in Chinese, it's very similar with the dialect. If you say one word a little bit off, it's the intonations, right? The way
mhm.
even the vocal cords are being used, the high, the lows, and all that stuff. And it's interesting because my grandmaster spoke Cantonese, and a friend of his that he met spoke a different dialect. And then what wound up happening is there was a white guy interpreting for both of them,
Because
which
you
was
knew.
hysterical. It was
Oh yeah.
hysterical.
But you put that in Chinese characters and they all can read it. That's the
Mhm.
difference. Anybody in China can read the Chinese letters, but yeah, the dialect, once you move away, the sounds change and tradition changes. So yeah, two groups don't even understand each other,
Yeah,
even though they're
correct.
speaking Cantonese.
Right, right. Let me share this with you for one quick sec. Here you go.
The city never sleeps, and neither do the dreamers who build its pulse. From every corner of the globe they come. Visionaries, creators, leaders, each carrying a spark ready to ignite the world. This is not an event. It's a revolution of rhythm and reason. A symphony of minds. A movement of momentum. Sifu Rafael, Lance This is the NYC Experience Mastermind. Light up the city. They coming from the east, coming from the west. Knowledge on deck, put the truth to the test. Leaders in motion, hearts in sync, dropping wisdom so deep it'll make you think. They bring stories, sweat and flame, different faces, one shared name. Elevation, that's the sound. NYC Experience Mastermind, where purpose is found.
And that is the New York City Experience. If you want to join us December 6th and 7th, there's a phone number going across. Text 516-242-8732 and join us December 6th and 7th. Tommy, you would be phenomenal at our experience. You know that, right?
I would
guess
love
what?
to do that. So
We're going to be in Ireland, which I think April 23rd through the 26th, we'd love to have you as part of our group there. So it'll be awesome.
I have been to Ireland and Kilpatrick, with my grandfather being full Irish. I'm a quarter Irish. So yeah, my grandfather married a German. So Metz and Kilpatrick got together. But yeah, I tried to get citizenship of Ireland, but I couldn't prove that my grandfather. They told me he came over on the ship. And so I've done this. But then I got his birth certificate, and it says that he was born in a small town in Illinois. So, and his wife, my grandmother, was born there too. And it's like, I don't think so. This didn't sound right. So back then, they probably just got a birth certificate to make things simple. Things were done a lot easier back then. But I can't prove I have Irish ancestry to get the immediately the passport.
But now you're in the Philippines. You're enjoying life in the Philippines. You have quite an extraordinary life, I believe. So talk to us about what happened after college for you. How did your life turn around? What did you go first for? Psychology, accounting? Did you go and take over your dad's company? Talk to us about all that.
Yes. Well, when I changed the major to social work, and then after almost graduating, I only had 2 more classes to go. And I was in the middle of those last 2 classes. I only had like months to go. I just said, I'm just not a social worker. I got my own problems. How can I go out there and help people? I was only 21. So it's like I went to school for all the wrong reasons. I went there to make money and to do that. So it just wasn't the place to be. So I quit, and I was married at the time. I got married quite young in there, and then we got divorced a year later. So it was just something that it was a spur of the moment kind of a thing. But so I had quit high school. I quit college, and then I became an accountant because of my background. So then I was just trying to get a job, and then from there I became a UPS driver in San Francisco, and then later I worked for the railroad in the Bay Area for the Santa Fe Railway. And then they offered me a locomotive position to drive the train, but where I'd have to move from San Francisco to Boron. So Boron's not a wonderful town in the middle of the desert in the southern part of California. So I passed on that. I became a commercial diver. So I went to diving school there in Oakland. And then from there, I got my car and drove to Texas. And so I was a construction worker. I was working on building falling off 2-story houses. I did a very good job of falling off houses several times. Down I went. Luckily, it was a soft landing, but no, I'm not cut out to be a carpenter. So, yeah, oil jobs opened up about a month later, and so I moved to Louisiana, and I stopped at one spot, and they hired me, and it was called Seacon, and we laid pipe, so it was a pipe laying barge, and so I was a tender and a diver, but mostly a tender. And so it was good work. It was fun. It was offshore, 12 hours on, 12 hours off for 3 and 4 weeks at a time. And so living in Louisiana, and they say, oh, you're from California. Yeah. When are you leaving? So it was like, yeah, nice. Spend your money here, but leave. We don't want you around here. So that was great. A couple of friends of mine, they had grown some pot plants in their window, and they got 20-year sentence. And I went into Lafayette, which is a town next door, for a drive-in bar. I mean, you could drive through and get a margarita. So I drive up and they said, "Are you over 21? Yes. Are there any children in the car? No. Okay. What do you want? I'll take a daiquiri." So I drive up and it was in a styrofoam cup with masking tape on top of it. I paid them the money. That's legal. It was legal to drink and drive at the
Wow.
time.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, then the oil glut of '82 came along, and so that ended that job. So I came back to California, and I was working as a diver, and I worked for a guy who cleaned tankers and super tankers. So I drove a hydraulic sweeper underneath a ship back and forth to clean the barnacles, and it made the ship go through the water faster. And
Mhm.
so worked very much. I worked probably about 40 or 50 days, and I made enough to live on for the whole year. So
Wow.
very well paid. And then a friend of mine, she was interested in being a manicurist. So I had surreptitiously set up a interview for her at a beauty school. And so I brought her in. She goes, "What are you here for?" "Oh, come on in for a second." "Oh, you're here for your appointment." She goes, "What appointment?" "Oh, to learn about manicuring." So she heard all about the great career as being a manicurist. And so upon leaving, I said, "Well, how do men doing this?" "Sit back down. Women love to have their feet rubbed by a guy." I went, "Oh, that's for me." So I became a manicurist.
No way. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
from a macho diver to a feminine manicurist. And my first job in a nail shop, I was always introduced as, "And he's not gay." That was
He's
my
not good.
moniker. Yeah, and he's not gay. So, but I figured out that doing pedicures, my neck and back was hurting. So I'd raise the client up in a taller chair, and I had a little table, and I put the foot bath there and a little shelf to put their feet there so I could do the work. And I had a piece of furniture. So I went to a trade show and I was trying to sell the table, and I had a chart of reflexology up in the back. Just I didn't have anything in the booth except this chart. And
Right.
so people just wanted the chart, buy the chart. And so I ended up selling charts. Then people wanted books. I started selling books. Then people
Wow.
wanted classes. So I started teaching classes. Then people wanted to be instructors. So I taught people instructors. So it turned out to be a really good business. And then it turned into I wrote a book on health and healing, and then it led me into an infomercial contract. And then that was another story.
Oh, wow, wow. Wait a minute. You did infomercials, you did a contract based on that, and, infomercials were extremely popular at one point. You could not turn on any television without seeing a 30-minute infomercial, literally, right? HSN now, they do all that constantly all day long, but you can see infomercials on most major television shows, which was 2, 4, 5, 7, and 11, right? Or even Channel 9, if I recall when I was a kid. And it was infomercial after infomercial after infomercial.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so what was your because guess who also shot for infomercials? This guy, right? I went to Hollywood and we shot from 6 in the morning till 12 at night, and we shot and we shot and we shot, and it was crazy stuff.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so what got you involved, and what kind of infomercial was it for?
It was my on the health and healing, so it was on the reflexology. And so I was put on radio as test marketing, and I would teach people how to work out their pain, their headaches, their back pain, their shoulder pain on the steering wheel as they're
Mm,
driving in at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they would call up the radio station because like a call-in show. "This guy's right. I can't believe it. My headache's gone." And so they would give out the 800 number, and they would call this call center, and then they would make the sale. And so they have never had anybody selling a $125 book. They could sell a $125 book on me being on radio. So they said, "This is going to be fantastic. You'll be making about $100,000 a month." So I had a 13-page contract that I had a father-in-law who was an attorney and a judge. And so we had this down. And so then something came along about 6 months into it. I used my credit cards to get about into $85,000 of debt. But one of the talents got in trouble by lying about his weight loss. So the
mm,
FTC came to the heart of the company, and they canceled all the new talents contracts. So I was stuck with $85,000 of credit card debt. So I had a
mhm.
dream, a plan to be a multimillionaire, and it's like gone.
It popped.
Debt.
It popped. It popped. Tommy, you definitely have had an interesting life and so many different career paths, right? So many things. And I think that one of the things that I'm seeing about you, um, very much similar to me, is that you're not afraid to take anything on. You're not afraid to say, you know what, if I fail, I fail, but at least I gave it a go, right? I think one of the most important concepts is here's the crazy thing, right? This is a thought that I had in the shower. A lot of times in my shower, because I take cold showers in the morning, I have this brilliant ideas that I think are brilliant, but they may not. And so one of the things is I thought of suck it, right? Because my loofah is on a suction, and I put it on the roof of my shower, right? So I said,
Uh-huh.
what if I created a company where you put everything on a suction cup, right? And everything, like, your toothbrush is on a suction cup, your pen is on a suction cup so you don't lose it. You put your glasses on a suction cup. So I was like, I can create a company called Suck It, right? So I mean, it's a silly idea, but the thought of it is that when we misplace something, if we can actually stick it somewhere, we'll always find it.
Yep.
So it's ideas like that that help us understand. That's entrepreneurship, I believe, and you are an entrepreneur, obviously. But for me, it's always thinking outside the box, because
Oh
who
yeah.
wants to be in a box anyway, right?
And that's the thing is that uh, I was going to say something about thinking outside the box is actually where you want to be. I want to be on the edge, take the
Oh,
chances. That's okay. That's from my upbringing. I could take risks, and you fall down, you'll get back up. It's no big deal.
right, exactly. When you consider you've traveled, you've done a lot of different things. When you were in Spain and you were speaking Spanish, and then you went to England and you're speaking Spanish but not realizing it, you embedded yourself in what you were doing in your environment. And now that you're in the Philippines, you've embedded yourself in your environment. So, because you've even said something earlier, you said, I want him to ask me that one question, that one question. And the question is, were you born here? And that means that your intention is to be so engulfed into your environment, to be in the culture, to understand, so that people are investing their time with you, to getting to know you. And I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
a big thing that a lot of people do not do regularly. They don't invest in where they are.
Right. And I'm telling you, when I was in Louisiana, like they said, you're from California. When are you leaving? When I moved to Maine, we call them people like me from away. So they would never get close to you because they knew you were going to leave. And so why invest any time for you that wasn't born there? So you could live there 20 years, you'd still never be accepted. So that's what I did with those autistic children. I sat down and did what they did. One kid tore a piece of paper in half and put it through the fence, then reached through and pulled the paper back and tore that in half and put two pieces through, and then reached those and 4 and 8 and 16 and 32. And I sat there for an hour or two doing what that kid did. Another kid took sand and picked sand up and let it filter out, but looking at it in the sun. He was using the sun as a light. And then another kid would clap. He would put his hand to his belly and make a clapping sound. I can still do it right now. And I did that. And he went, oh, he was thrilled. So he pulled my shirt up and he slapped me. My belly was so red. But that's what I did. And a psychiatrist come over to me and said, we have never seen these children ever interact with anyone except you. And I said, I do what they do. I have no idea why they're doing it. So I'm offshore. Let's say 10 years later, I am about 5 years later, I'm offshore, 68 miles offshore. And I'm holding a diver's hose for several hours. I am just like spaced out, and the
Right.
waves and the light. And all of a sudden, they started to dance. And not, I was having a hallucination, but that's what the psychotic kid was doing, picking sand up and all the little sparkles. And that's what he was dancing with. And so I got it. So I've always wanted to embed myself, be in Spain with the people, go to Maine and live with the people. I lived very poor. It's one of the poorest, rate 16 in a nation. And it was devastated by the Sackler family. They're the ones who were buying the Oxycontin.
Mhm.
They targeted West Virginia, one particular county. that had a big drug problem, but not the counties around it. And they focused on what we call down east. And that was an area there, and it has devastated the area. So I have a connection to those people there that have been run through the system, because I've had medical clinics in the past where I did detoxification. I can detox people off of drugs, alcohol, tobacco in very short amount of time. It takes me about 90 days to do the psychological undoing, but I can't detoxify their life. When they go back into that environment, they're going to die. And I've been to too many meetings where they started talking about all the people who've died. And I'm an accountant, and I start counting, and I was
Right.
about 15. And that was just recent deaths of people. So I have a plan that with the judge that I became friends with, he would give them a temporary, conditional pardon, because nonviolent. So I'm going to take these drug addicts out of prison, out of jail, and run them through my program for about 90 days. And then we have, with their agreement, we're going to leave to go to Argentina. So my next stop is to Argentina to buy a farm and bring the men to the farm and teach them how to be men, how to build their own house, how to drill a well, how to grow their own food, how they're going to heal people, and first aid, and the whole thing about your life and production of health. And then if they want, they can have a new name, a new life, and maybe a new wife if they want to. So that's my plan. Then bring them back if they want to come back to America, because I have a way in Argentina. If you invest $7,000, you get a passport in 2 years. So I will have that investment for them, like an import-export business. But then at least they will get a passport, and they don't have to come back if they don't want to. Because I'm telling you, the community does not want these people there. They hate them. What they have done, lying, the cheating, the stealing, they don't want these people anywhere in their community. So they'll be very happy to move these people out, but I can bring them back for a full pardon if they want to come back. So, and be productive. And that's the whole point, is to be immersed. So and what I'm doing here is the farmers, I'm teaching them how to build dome houses with bamboo. So it's free housing. And the other one's a vertical gardening. So I'm moving in 2 days from now to the countryside, to my fiance's farm. So I'm going to be teaching the vertical gardening there. And just 3 days ago, they opened up the floodgates, and they have covered the entire farm in water, and all their crops are destroyed. They got no warning, and they could have picked had they known about it. And that's the problem, is bending over, doing 10,000 years of agriculture. So we can do it vertically and make a lot more produce and more products out of that in a vertical sense.
I love that. I love that. Let me share one more video with you guys. Take a look. You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy. You're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind-Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder. You need better. Ready to begin? Start today. Yes, yes, yes. Start today, because you never have another day to fix things. Today's the day to do it, right? So
Living in now.
that's it. And I love the fact that you're helping. And I remember last time you were on my New Tip Daily show, you talked about how your girlfriend's farm, and when you were teaching people how to create the atmosphere of free food, of food that's going to go to waste anyway. Why not give it away? Why not benefit from that? Do you want to tap into that really quick? We have about 4 minutes left. So you wanna
Sure.
jump into
And
that? Sure.
that's, because what's coming, I'm talking to a lady who has, she was sued for $12,000 of credit card debt. So she contacted me after hearing my podcast and stuff. So I'm helping her. And she's talking about how she can't make it. She's in North Carolina. The prices of food is going up. She has no other way of doing it. So I kind of explained to her what could happen. She loves the idea. So it's economy of scale. So what we want to do is all these people who've got, let's say, food stamps, and they're cutting that back too. So when I was in Maine and I came off the farm, I was given food stamps, about $300 a month. And I went and got food at the food pantry. So now you're seeing that on television. People are going to the food pantry for the very first time. And I was given 65 pounds of food every week. And we're talking fresh produce, meat, fish, refrigerated, frozen, canned, all kinds of food, more than I could eat. And I made a cup of rice and my vegetables because I'm vegetarian. And I had to eat the meal 6 times in 2 days. That's all I ate was the same thing. I was like, I'm tired of this. So if I only had 5 friends, I could feed them. But then if they did what I did, oh my gosh. So think of this. It's easier to think of like a church. So a church of 100 people who were poor, and most people in that area of Maine, they were on food stamps. So 85% are in the poverty level there. So we have 100 people and they get 65 pounds of food a week. Do the math. That's 6,500 pounds of food a week. And you put $300 times 100, $30,000 you can spend at Sam's Club, at Costco. They take the SNAP card, but you take that into all this raw food and bring it back. And now you can cook meals, and you don't really need 2 meals a day, brunch and supper. So it's called the Brunch and Supper Club, that they have to join a club. So it's not a restaurant, it's a club, and it's in the church community. So they have food in the shelves, they got food in the refrigerator, and then they have 2 hot meals every day. And there's so much more because now what they do, there is no free lunch. Remember that? Yes, it's free, but then there is no free lunch. So they have to do something like go out and go fishing. Some people love to fish. So go fish and bring it back to the church, to the kitchen. We'll process it. Well, do you know what you're doing? Yes, we are eating the food. So we are going to be at a higher level of cleanliness. We're going to know the laws and make it extreme. So we will know. So any inspector comes in, we are no way are we compared to any restaurant. We are so clean because it's our food that we are eating. So we have a material interest in this. So people that love to grow crops, and they're growing and raise animals. And there you go. The local dairy gave us a cow in the middle of winter. So we raised this little baby cow. It was a male cow, so it was to be a bull, because they don't want that. It doesn't make any milk. So they gave it to us, and we raised it up. So in about 3 years, you can have hamburger, or you get kind of personally attached to them, so someone else can have them. Then they couldn't do the butchering stuff. But I'm just saying, is there's free food. You can create a whole herd of cows, goats, chickens, rabbits. We had them all there on the farm. So bring all this food together, and then what we do is for the public, they can actually have a reservation. So the food is free. They just have to have a reservation. So $10 for a 5-course meal. We're talking the highest quality of meats, cheese for an appetizer, soups, salad, entree with 2 vegetables, and a dessert. And I want this all to be artwork. I want this to be art you eat gallery. So it's not a restaurant, because restaurants are going to fail. You can't make it go a restaurant. But this, so people prepay and they can use their SNAP card.
Wow.
How can you do that? Well, I have a bag of groceries, and to be a member, it costs $10. So you say, oh, do you want to buy the bag of groceries? Sure. And now we can run their SNAP card, and they bought the groceries. Now you're a member. You want to have a reservation tonight? Yes, I want to have a dinner. Fantastic. It's $10. And for $10, we run on their SNAP card. And that's the same thing. Would you please make that groceries into my food tonight? Be happy to. They sit down, and every day. So Monday is going to be Mexican Monday, and then Tuesday's Asian, then Wednesday's Italian, Thursday's Thanksgiving. Not every day, we're going to have other things besides Thanksgiving, but we love Thanksgiving. Friday will be surf and turf. Saturday's a special, and Sunday's a smorgasbord. So anything we didn't have extra, it's just come on down and eat. So there's no menu. You don't pick. You just come hungry. And if you want pork, we got it. You want chicken, we got it. You want beef, we got it. You want vegetables, we got it. So just come in and eat. If you say supersize me, we give you a whole nother meal free. So I'm talking $10, you're going to walk out with all this food. So yes, we can have free food and bring in about 5,000 a day from people feeding people with their SNAP card.
Wow, that's really incredible. Tommy, I got to tell you, wow, powerful conversation today. Thank you so much for being here with me. We are coming to the end of the show. I want to give you about 45 seconds. You can connect with Tommy on his Facebook. Also, If you take a look and you look above, I'm going to put his QR code. You can scan the QR code and it takes you right to his page. Tommy, 45 seconds, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. So, what do I say? Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time. And so I encourage people to have a mind like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So I actually to open your mind up and think of possibilities. That's what it is. And when you see the word impossible, just move a little space there and it's I'm possible. So yes, we're going to have to come together the way the world is falling apart. We're going to need to come together. And the best thing around it is food. So we can bring everybody together, do it communally, and spread it around. And so that's where we can be, and that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be wealthy. It reminds me very quickly of a story. My son was in daycare, and so the lady had them all in a circle and was passing a penny around. Then all of a sudden, there's 2 pennies to pass. There's 3 pennies. There's handfuls of pennies. And the kids were laughing. They couldn't pass enough. She says, "Okay, hold a penny. So if you pass the penny, you get many. You hold the penny, you don't get any." So the whole idea is for us to have this currency in the banks and drive this currency to where it should go. And that's where it's good to feeding people and housing people and taking care of the people who have got these drug addictions. That's what I'm all about.
I love it. I love it. Everybody, make sure you connect with Tommy. Go to his Facebook. You can either scan it or you can just go to Facebook and look up Tommy A. Kilpatrick. It's that easy, people. So let's do it. Let's connect with Tommy. I've already friended him earlier today, so he did accept me. Now we're friends on Facebook, but we're friends in more ways than that because I just love the energy that you bring, and I look forward to connecting with you when I come to Ireland and have you come to Ireland also. April 23rd through the 26th, the New York City experience will be there. I'm coming with Jose Escobar and Lancelot. And we're going to have our good friend Dave Hurley there as well. So do me a favor, share this show. There's so much information. It's mind-boggling, people, but it's really interesting and it's actionable as well. So share this show with someone that you know that needs to hear this today. Tommy, thank you, my friend. God bless you. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.